The world's most important oil artery is no longer just a passage, it's a pressure point, and someone just tightened the grip. Iran may have made its most dangerous miscalculation yet, believing it could control the Strait of Hormuz without consequences. When ceasefire talks collapsed with no resolution, Washington didn't hesitate. It moved decisively, transforming tension into action. What followed wasn't a warning. It was a demonstration of power. At exactly 10 a.m. on April 13th, a new reality took shape. Every ship, regardless of nationality, purpose, or flag, would now be subject to inspection before passing through the strait. This wasn't just about Iran anymore. This was about control. And suddenly, the key to the world's most critical energy corridor was no longer in Tehran's hands. Perhaps Iran never imagined this scenario, that its strongest leverage, its geographic dominance over Hormuz, could be turned against it. But that's exactly what happened. The United States didn't just respond, it rewrote the rules. More than 50,000 American troops across the Middle East were placed on high alert. Military analysts began openly discussing the possibility of that number doubling, reaching close to 100,000 if escalation continued. Air bases across the region came alive. Massive C-17 Globemaster aircraft roared across the skies, transporting troops, vehicles, and equipment at a relentless pace. KC-135 tankers circled above like silent lifelines, refueling jets mid-air and extending their reach deep into contested zones. Elite infantry units poured into strategic bases, and offshore, the centerpiece of American naval dominance emerged. A full carrier strike group centered around the USS Abraham Lincoln carved its way into position, its deck loaded with stealth fighters, strike aircraft, and surveillance systems capable of seeing everything and missing nothing. Above the waters of Hormuz, a layered shield began to form, not defensive, dominant. But this moment didn't come out of nowhere. 2 days earlier, April 11th, a line had already been crossed. 2 American destroyers entered the strait. Their names had already echoed through military circles: USS Frank E. Peterson Jr. and USS Michael Murphy. Heavily armed, highly capable, unapologetically present. Their passage wasn't routine, it was a signal, and Iran understood it instantly. The response came over the radio, sharp, direct, unmistakable. Final warning, divert immediately, change course and return. The message cut through the silence of the Gulf like a blade. This wasn't diplomacy. This was confrontation. That single transmission carried the weight of what was coming next. Because from that moment forward, the Strait of Hormuz was no longer just a shipping lane, it had become a front line. But while the world focused on Hormuz, another storm was forming nearby. In the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, attacks on civilian cargo vessels intensified. Iran wasn't acting alone. Regional proxies were being pulled into the conflict, expanding the battlefield beyond a single choke point. 2 vital arteries of global trade, 2 simultaneous crises, and 1 escalating strategy. Inside Hormuz itself, the nature of warfare began to shift. This wasn't a conventional naval standoff. It was something far more unpredictable. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy deployed a strategy built not on size or firepower, but on chaos. Swarm warfare. Hundreds of fast attack boats, small, agile, and heavily armed, spread across the narrow waters. Some carried machine guns. Others were fitted with rocket launchers. They moved fast, struck quickly, disappeared instantly. Individually, they were insignificant. Together, they were overwhelming. And that wasn't the only threat. Above the water, drones loomed. Kamikaze-style UAVs designed to dive directly into targets filled the skies. Some capable of traveling long distances, others meant for rapid, close-range strikes. Below the surface, another danger drifted silently. Naval mines. Hundreds of them, placed strategically but moving unpredictably with ocean currents. Invisible, untraceable, deadly. In a strait barely 35 kilometers wide at its narrowest point, these threats turned distance into irrelevance. Warships and attack boats weren't separated by miles. They were separated by moments. If conflict erupted, it wouldn't be gradual. It would be immediate and devastating. Iran's strategy is brutally simple. Overwhelm. Flood the battlefield with cheap, expendable assets, boats, drones, mines, forcing the enemy to exhaust its defenses. Because every missile fired from a billion-dollar destroyer against a small speedboat is a victory of economics. And eventually, even the most advanced arsenal runs dry. But the United States isn't blind to this. Its approach is equally calculated. Don't intercept the attack. Destroy the source. Instead of waiting for missiles to launch, eliminate the launchers. Instead of tracking drones in the sky, destroy the facilities that build them. That's where air power comes in. A 10 Thunderbolt aircraft, designed for close combat, now patrol the strait at dangerously low altitudes. Their purpose is clear: hunt, engage, destroy. Their 30-millimeter cannons can rip through small boats in seconds, turning swarm tactics into scattered wreckage. Meanwhile, far above them, strategic bombers prepare for a different kind of mission. B-52s, B-1 Lancers, flying fortresses capable of carrying bunker-busting munitions powerful enough to collapse underground facilities buried deep within mountains. Because Iran's real strength doesn't lie on the water. It lies hidden beneath rock and concrete. Missile batteries, drone launch tunnels, command centers, invisible to the eye, but not beyond reach. And if those sites are struck, the balance changes instantly. But there's a catch. Because the moment Iran fires a missile, just one, it risks triggering a full-scale response. Not limited, not measured, overwhelming. Air superiority in the region already leans heavily in favor of the United States, with advanced fighter jets controlling the skies and electronic warfare systems disrupting targeting capabilities. Yet even then, nothing is guaranteed. One drone slipping through, one missile evading detection, one successful strike. That's all it takes to shift perception and power. Beneath the surface, another silent war unfolds. Autonomous underwater vehicles sweep the seabed, searching for mines. It's slow, methodical, dangerous, because every missed device is a potential catastrophe. And while all this unfolds, global trade reacts instantly. Oil tankers begin to reroute. Massive vessels carrying millions of barrels of crude oil change direction mid-journey. Some head towards safer waters. Others turn toward entirely different continents. The flow of energy, the lifeblood of the global economy, begins to shift. For Iran, the consequences are immediate. Its oil exports, already under pressure, begin to collapse. Millions of barrels per day, gone. And with them, the revenue that sustains its economy. But the real shockwave doesn't stop there. Because the country most affected by this disruption isn't Iran. It's China. China's industrial machine runs on energy, and a significant portion of that energy comes from Iranian oil. Cheap, reliable, and often traded outside the traditional financial system, not in dollars, but in yuan. Bypassing sanctions, bypassing oversight, bypassing control, the blockade changes that. Suddenly, those supply lines are at risk. If China loses access to Iranian oil, it faces a choice. Buy from alternative sources, at higher prices, or challenge the blockade directly. And that's where the real danger lies. Because if a Chinese tanker enters Hormuz and refuses to stop, the situation transforms instantly. If the United States intervenes, it risks confrontation with another global superpower. If it doesn't, the blockade loses credibility. Either way, the consequences ripple across the world. This is no longer just a regional conflict, it's a test of power, of resolve, of limits. Because behind the warships, the aircraft, and the strategies, there's a deeper question being asked. Who controls the flow of energy? And by extension, who controls the world? As tensions rise and forces gather, one thing becomes clear. The Strait of Hormuz is no longer just a narrow stretch of water. It's the center of a geopolitical storm, and what happens here will not stay here. Please do not forget to share your thoughts and analyses regarding this geopolitical knot that will determine the fate of the world with us in the comments section below.